What's up everyone, it's Sprometheus, and finally, today, it's a first for the channel, and for me as a coffee lover, I'm actually reviewing a hand grinder. And boy, is it a beauty. So now that I've got your attention with that sexy B-roll footage, and my niche zero is sufficiently jealous, let's talk about this grinder. This is the Timemore Chestnut X, and according to the inventors and designers, it's got not only beauty, but also brains. During its development, they aimed to set the bar pretty high, and from what I've heard and what I know about hand grinders, there's definitely some pretty serious competition out there. By a higher bar, they set out to reinvent the burrs with their patented S2C or spike-to-cut conical design, as well as a dual adjustment dial with up to 120 grind size options. But those are just a couple of the main headlines, but what I want to do is dive quite a bit deeper into this grinder, put it through some tests, and see how it fares when it comes out the other side. Okay, so after all, this is a coffee channel, and if you're watching this video about a coffee grinder, you likely at least already understand the basics of dialing in a grinder, and with the Chestnut X, it hasn't really changed a whole lot. To adjust the grind, unscrew the bottom chamber, flip the grinder over, and you've got your dials. Not singular, plural. Dials. This outer ring gives you all the main adjustments, 0 to 24. And for reference, they say 6 is the espresso range, and 16 is the pour-over range. This inner ring is where they put in some serious engineering. This little guy right here will give each of the main 24 adjustments another 5 micro adjustments, allowing, like I said, up to 120 total adjustment points. Which I dare say is pretty impressive for a stepped grinder, let alone a hand grinder. The dial-in process, like other grinders, will take a little trial and error, but I found their recommended points for espresso and pour-over to be pretty close to spot on. So using those as your starting points, you'll likely find yourself well within range pretty quickly with minimal coffee wasted, which is always a welcome experience when it comes to a new grinder or dialing in a new coffee. One of the most intriguing design and engineering portions of this grinder are its spike-to-cut conical burrs. The spikes at the top of the burr set break down larger beans to a more uniform size before entering the cutting portion, where they're cut down to size and ground out the other side. Through their own research and development, they say this design helps create a more even particle distribution, and they brought receipts. But I really wanted to see this with my own eyes. So while dialed in as close as possible for a pour-over, I sifted 15 grams from both the niche and the chestnut to see how they compared. The niche still came out victorious in the sift test, with 11.5 grams landing in the sweet spot between 1000 and 500 micron, and the chestnut hitting 8.9 grams in the same test. Of course, this isn't an exact science. But from what I noticed, the chestnut does create close to the same amount of fines as the niche, 1.9 grams to the niche's 1.7 comparatively, but the chestnut falls short in the coarse range with 4.2 grams to niche's 1.8. I also think it's worth mentioning, now that I've brought up the niche multiple times, that the Chestnut X does still run a zero retention grind process. Of course, you'll still need a few taps, but then again, so does the niche. Filter and espresso are two very different beasts, and having a grinder that can do both consistently is what I would consider a unicorn. And that's one of the reasons, if not the main reason, why I say so many positive things about my niche. But the Chestnut X isn't far behind. Both brewing pour-overs and espresso are a breeze on this thing. It produces crisp, clear, and tasty pour-over brews, as well as pulling beautiful bottomless shots that taste as good as they look. I mean, just look at this. It's a thing of beauty, really. Of course, I couldn't do a thorough grinder review without checking some extractions. The pour-overs and espresso shots were consistently within the specialty standard at around 18 to 19%, and that's with very little fuss, and not even using the smaller secondary grind adjustments. So clearly there is even more potential for higher extractions with the Chestnut X. After using the Chestnut X, part of me is like, why did I wait so long to get a hand grinder? But then my inner monologue speaks up, and I'm a little ashamed to admit it, but it has a little or a lot to do with the fact that I'm kind of lazy. In the grand scheme, the Chestnut won't become my daily driver. I'm pretty happy with my coffee routine and my setup at the moment, and I don't really see a need to change it. Plus, I don't really want one of my forearms to look like Popeye's. But that doesn't change the fact that it's actually a great tool. Its full steel and aluminum construction and thoughtful design features like the collapsible handle with attached bump stop to protect the finish, which also doubles as a nice knocker to break loose any of those grinds stuck on the walls or burrs and down into the chamber. Smooth as butter grinder bearings and stylish leather sleeve are just icing on the cake. Since Timemore set out to raise the bar with this grinder, I would say they definitely succeeded. The look, feel, usability, and functionality all put together in this small hand grinder make it a giant killer. And it's officially made the decision process for those shopping for premium hand grinders just a little more difficult. Of course, it isn't all rainbows and sunshine. This grinder is not cheap. At $320 US, it's on the level of the Kinu M47 and the Commandante. Outside of the price, I would prefer the grind chamber attached using a gasket and tension, purely because I'm worried a bit about cross-threading. The biggest downfall is its smaller capacity than the competition, with a 30 gram max dose, compared to its competitors with 40 to 50 gram chambers. But if you're in the market for a premium hand grinder that can run your entire bar, the Chestnut X is most definitely worth your consideration. Anyway, that's it for me today. A big thank you to Slowport Supply for letting me snag one of these grinders to review. If you're looking for one within the US, they're the place to do it, as well as any other latte art or brewing tools, they got you covered. And of course, let me know your thoughts on the Chestnut X, hand grinders in general, and whatever else may tickle your fancy, coffee related of course, in the comment section down below, and I'll see y'all again next week. And of course, a big thank you to my March Patreon supporters, Ads, Jacob P, David W, Christopher Squeegee, Rowe, Brian, Lisa, Obo, Andre, Sean, Noel, Spookus, Mika, Samantha, Bound Coffee, Claire, Steven, James K, Josh, Andrew Horrison, Corey C, Curry, Jeff Roth, Joey N, Thomas B, UK Espresso, Tim, Jason C, Ninja Warrior Coffee, Home Barista Coach, Testing 123, Jerry, Matt, Zachary V, Tyler F, Robert Underdunk, Jeffrey R, BJK Cafe, Chris M, Daniel P, Mike B, Brian M, Brandon B, Tyler M, Sebastian, Matthew C, JRC, Absolute, Stephen G, Alex T, and Offensive, and of course a big thank you to the barista and barback tiers. If you want any information on my Patreon, there's a link in the description and in the upper right hand corner right now. And of course, a big thank you to you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that little bell for notifications of new videos posted every Friday. Follow my Instagram at Sprometheus for content throughout the week, my blog at Sprometheus.com, my coffee at littlegiant.coffee, and as always, stay caffeinated. Pony Boy.